You let me know when it's... Well, it's Nirmala Sitharaman's interim budget, the sixth straight budget that the Finance Minister just reported. And it's also been her shortest yet budget speech. In fact, last year was her shortest budget speech for a full budget, 1 hour 27 minutes. This one ended in just 57 minutes, less than 1 hour. And in fact, that was also expected, largely because this is an interim budget. So not much really changes. It is usually known as the vote on account, where a lot of the financials are supposed to be closed. And eventually, the full budget will perhaps be presented once, the new government is elected, and sometime in June, July itself. But in that itself, we did see a bunch of important announcements. The most important announcement made by the Finance Minister this time around was the fiscal deficit target for FY25 at 5.1%. What exactly is the fiscal deficit? Basically, it is the money that the government earns versus the money that the government spends. The remainder, the deficit, usually the government spends a little more than what it spends. So that deficit as a percentage of GDP is 5.1%. What does that mean? That means it is very good. Most on the street were working with a number of 5.3 to 5.4%, some of them going as high as 5.5 and 5.6% as well. So 5.1% means that the government will actually make a lot more money than it is spending. Rather, they will make more money than they expected. So the deficit will actually be just 5.1%, which means that the government will have to borrow less. How much less will they have to borrow in the next financial year? They have to borrow 11.75 lakh crores on a net basis, 14.13 lakh crore on a gross basis. Now, what does this net borrowing number do to your and my interest rates? If the government borrows more, then there is less money left for the banking system and the overall system to give to people like you and me or companies as well. But if the government borrows less, then there is a little more money in the system. With little more money coming in the system, what it implies is that interest rates are likely to stay stable, all things considered constant. The other thing that the government did speak about, or the Finance Minister did speak about, was in FY24, fiscal deficit has been expected at 5.8%, and this is because of slightly higher than expected revenues and slightly lower than expected expenditure. This number in the budget that she earlier spoke about last year was expected to be 5.9%. So there's some saving there as well. In terms of schemes for you and me, has anything been announced? No. Why is that? Because everyone is looking at the next full-term budget for those schemes. But the important part is there has been no increase in income taxes. There's been no change in any taxes. But at the same time, as the Prime Minister called it, this is a budget that gives you direction to where the government is going. And this is where the direction came by. The budget did speak about 4 areas of focus: impoverished people, women, the youth, as well as farmers. And to that, the government has a lot of plans. The Finance Minister did recount the success of schemes like PM Kisan, PM Awas Yojana, the GST itself. Then she also did make a mention of the importance that sports has in our nation, as well as the presence of women in STEM courses. 43% of our women actually enroll in software technology, engineering and mathematics courses, and that is one of the highest in the world. Importantly, some of the schemes that the government did say will be announced by the government, the Finance Minister said will be announced by the government. PM Awas Yojana, the number of houses will be increased from 3 crores to around 5 odd crores. Schemes for developing charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. They will also launch a scheme for housing for the middle class, and also various schemes of maternal and childcare will be brought under one umbrella. Ayushman Bharat, the coverage has been increased. Agriculture and food processing, the government will go ahead and actually incentivize private and public investment in post-harvest activities. Also was spoken about Atmanirbharta for oil seeds such as mustard, groundnut, etc. Importantly, they will also add a scheme for dairy farmers. They want to increase the kind of exports that we're doing with regards to fisheries as well. The capex budget, or the amount that the government will spend on capital expenditure, which is roads, railways, infrastructure, all of that has increased by about 11%, closer to 11 crore for FY25. On trains as well, there have been a lot of announcements. 40,000 new railway wagons will be converted into Vande Bharat. So the sum and substance of the interim budget of 2024 is, as the Prime Minister said, it is a budget that looks ahead, gives you a slight peek into what the Finance Minister may announce once the government is re-elected, and that's what the hope on the street is this time around, and the various schemes that they will be taking care of. The good part about this budget is there is a fair amount of fiscal rectitude, a lot of discipline by the government in not overspending and not anticipating a lot more in terms of tax receipts. The receipts of the government are increasing because of the formalization of the economy. So that is one good thing. And the government is using them well. They're plugging the leakages through all the digital infrastructure and all the digital systems that the government has created, including the likes of direct benefit transfers and PM Jan Dhan Yojana as well. So all these factors are working towards optimizing all the revenues and the expenditures of the country, and the government is mindful of that, and the discipline has been maintained. 5.1% fiscal deficit target for FY25 is the key highlight of this budget, with the government borrowing a lot lesser than what the street is anticipating, and as a result of which there would be a lot more for people like you and me and corporations to go ahead and borrow. For all of them who were expecting that there would be a tax cut, tax rationalizations, or a little more sobs to give some more money in the hands of people, well, just wait a little longer. Once the new government comes in and the street is expecting it would be just this government, then there would be some more announcements in the month of June and July.